I'm Megan, a 28-year-old teacher from Boston. 10 years of careful saving had built my wedding fund to $60,000. My parents promised it would be there when I needed it. Then last month during a family dinner, they casually announced they'd emptied my account to buy my sister Amanda her dream home. Just like that, a decade of trust shattered in seconds. Jordan, my fiancé, was heartbroken too. Nothing could have prepared us for what happened next. Before I tell you how my own parents betrayed me, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. And if you've ever had family take something that was rightfully yours, hit that like button and subscribe to join our community. Growing up in our middle-class neighborhood in Boston, it was always clear that my older sister Amanda was the golden child. My parents, Eleanor and Thomas, never tried to hide their favoritism. Amanda got the bigger bedroom, newer clothes, and more attention at every school event. When she got a B on her report card, we went out for ice cream. When I got straight A's, my parents would simply nod and say, "That's expected of you." Despite this uneven treatment, I worked hard to win their approval. I graduated top of my class, got into a great college, and became an elementary school teacher. I loved my job working with second graders, even if it didn't pay as much as Amanda's corporate job. 4 years ago, I met Jordan at a friend's barbecue. He was charming, thoughtful, and had the kindest blue eyes I'd ever seen. We bonded over our shared love of 90s sitcoms and hiking the trails around Massachusetts. After our third date, I knew he was special when he surprised me with a picnic at the exact spot where we'd first talked. 6 months ago, Jordan proposed during a weekend trip to Cape Cod. As the sun set over the ocean, he got down on one knee with a simple but beautiful ring. "Megan, you're my best friend and the love of my life. Will you marry me?" I could barely see through my tears as I said yes. My parents had promised since I was a teenager that they would help with my wedding when the time came. On my 18th birthday, they proudly showed me a special account they had set up labeled Megan's Wedding Fund. They had started it with $5,000 and told me that if I contributed to it regularly, they would match a portion of my savings. For the next 10 years, I faithfully deposited money from every paycheck into that account. I skipped vacations, bought secondhand furniture, and took on tutoring jobs during summer breaks. By the time Jordan proposed, the account had grown to just over $60,000. It represented a decade of sacrifice and the promise of our dream wedding and honeymoon. Meanwhile, Amanda's life had taken a different turn. After years in what appeared to be a perfect marriage to her college sweetheart David, she suddenly announced they were getting divorced. She moved back to our parents' house temporarily with her 2 children, 5-year-old Lily and 3-year-old Noah. My parents immediately converted their home office and guest room to accommodate them. 3 weeks after Jordan's proposal, my parents invited the whole family over for Sunday dinner. Jordan couldn't make it because of a work emergency at the architectural firm where he was finishing a major project. I arrived at my parents' colonial-style home alone, immediately sensing something was off. The atmosphere felt charged with an unusual tension. As soon as I walked into my parents' house that Sunday, I noticed my mother arranging an elaborate table setting with the good china they only used for special occasions. Amanda was in the kitchen helping my father prepare his famous pot roast while her kids played in the living room. "Megan, sweetie, you're here," my mother exclaimed, giving me a hug that lasted a bit too long. Too bad Jordan couldn't make it. "We have some exciting news to share today." During dinner, my parents and Amanda exchanged meaningful glances several times. When dessert was served, my mother raised her wine glass in a toast. "To new beginnings and family coming together in times of need," she said, her voice slightly tremulous. My father cleared his throat and placed his hand over Amanda's. "We have something wonderful to announce. Amanda has found her dream home." Amanda's face lit up. "It's absolutely perfect, Megan. 4 bedrooms, a gorgeous backyard for the kids in that new development across town with the great school district. It's exactly what the kids and I need for our fresh start." I smiled and raised my glass. "That's great, Amanda. Congratulations." My father continued. "The house costs $450,000, and after her divorce settlement, Amanda needed help with the down payment." Something in his tone made my stomach tighten. I put my fork down slowly. Your mother and I have been discussing how we could help, my father said. Family has to take care of family, especially when there are grandchildren involved. My mother jumped in. Amanda needs a stable home for the children, especially after everything they've been through with the divorce. I nodded cautiously. That's understandable. So you're helping her with the down payment. My father looked directly at me. We've decided to use your wedding fund for Amanda's down payment. The full $60,000. The words hit me like a physical blow. I couldn't have heard him correctly. My wedding fund, the one I've been contributing to for 10 years, the one for my wedding that's happening in 8 months. Honey, Amanda needs it more right now, my mother said softly. You and Jordan both have good jobs. You can save up again. Amanda reached across the table as if to touch my hand, but I pulled away. I'm so grateful, Meg. You don't know what this means to me and the kids. The smugness in her voice was unmistakable. There was no genuine gratitude, no acknowledgement of what she was taking from me. This isn't fair, I said, my voice shaking. That money was explicitly saved for my wedding. You promised me. It's just a wedding, Megan, my father said dismissively. One day of celebration versus a home for your sister and her children. Don't be selfish. The word selfish hit me like a slap. I excused myself to the bathroom, locked the door, and called Jordan with shaking hands. When I told him what happened, his initial silence spoke volumes. Megan, that's absolutely wrong, he finally said. That money was yours. They had no right to take it without your permission. Do you want me to come get you? I splashed cold water on my face and returned to the dining room where my family was now discussing paint colors for Amanda's new house, as if nothing had happened. I'm leaving, I announced. What you've done is wrong, and I can't believe you would betray me like this. Don't be so dramatic, Amanda said with an eye roll. It's not like you're homeless. You still have your apartment. As I grabbed my coat, my mother followed me to the door. Megan, please understand. Family has to make sacrifices sometimes. Funny how I'm always the one sacrificing, I replied before walking out into the cold night. The week after that disastrous dinner was one of the worst of my life. I called my mother the next day hoping there had been some misunderstanding. There wasn't. Megan, we've already transferred the money, she explained. Amanda's offer on the house has been accepted. There's no going back now. You had no right to take that money, I insisted. Half of it was money I contributed myself from my own salary. Well, technically, the account was in our names, my mother replied. And as your parents, we made the decision we felt was best for the family as a whole. I tried appealing to my father next, but his response was even worse. He sent a series of text messages that left me in tears. Your sister has 2 children to provide for, and you're worried about centerpieces and cake. I raised you to be better than this. Your selfishness is disappointing. A wedding is one day. A home is forever. Stop being so materialistic. When you're a parent, you'll understand that sometimes difficult decisions have to be made. Amanda needs this more than you do. Meanwhile, Amanda had already begun moving into her new house. She posted photos all over social media showing off her spacious kitchen, the children's bedrooms with brand new furniture, and the beautiful backyard with a playset. There was no mention of where the down payment had come from. When friends commented asking how she could afford such a nice place right after her divorce, she vaguely referred to family support and careful planning. The impact on my relationship with Jordan was immediate. We had to postpone our wedding indefinitely. The venue we'd been eyeing had required a 50% deposit that we could no longer afford. The honeymoon to Italy we'd dreamed about seemed impossible now. Jordan was supportive, but I could see the disappointment in his eyes. We'll figure something out, he kept saying. What matters is that we're together. But the stress took its toll. We had our first major fight when I suggested canceling the engagement altogether. My mental health began deteriorating. I had trouble sleeping, often lying awake replaying the dinner conversation in my mind, thinking of all the things I should have said. At work, I found myself zoning out during lessons, my second graders noticing that Miss Megan wasn't her usual enthusiastic self. I confided in my best friend Samantha, who was outraged on my behalf. "That's actual theft," she said. "They can't just take your money like that." My Aunt Catherine, my father's sister, attempted to organize a family intervention. She invited my parents, Amanda and me, to her house to discuss the situation, but it quickly devolved into a shouting match. Most of the extended family took my parents' side, arguing that helping a single mother with 2 children should take priority over a party, as they called my wedding. Jordan's parents, upon hearing what happened, offered to help financially, but they were retired on a fixed income and couldn't possibly match the amount that had been taken. I felt trapped and betrayed by the entire family system that had always favored Amanda. My resentment toward my sister grew when she showed absolutely no remorse. In fact, she seemed to enjoy her new status as a homeowner, posting daily updates about decorating projects and backyard plans. The breaking point came when I received a formal invitation to Amanda's housewarming party. The card was embossed with gold lettering. "Join us in celebrating Amanda's new beginning." It felt like salt in an open wound. After much debate, Jordan and I decided to attend Amanda's housewarming party. "We'll go be civil and leave early," he said. "It might help to see the family in a public setting where they'll be on their best behavior." When we arrived, Amanda's new house was even more impressive in person than in her photos. The 2-story colonial with its manicured lawn and wraparound porch was the kind of home most people in their early 30s could only dream of owning, especially a recently divorced single mother. Amanda greeted us at the door with a glass of champagne in hand. "Megan, Jordan, I'm so glad you could make it. Let me give you the tour." She led us through the spacious living room with its hardwood floors and bay windows, pointing out the custom built-in bookshelves. "Aren't they gorgeous?" They were an upgrade that cost extra but so worth it. An upgrade that my money had paid for. The kitchen featured marble countertops and stainless steel appliances. "I splurged on the 6-burner professional range," Amanda said proudly. "The kids and I love cooking together now." Another splurge courtesy of my wedding fund. Upstairs, the master bedroom had a sitting area and an ensuite bathroom with a soaking tub. "This is my sanctuary," Amanda explained. "After the kids go to bed, I come in here with a glass of wine and just relax." With each room we toured, my anger grew. This wasn't just a house for the children's stability. This was a showcase home with luxury features that went well beyond basic needs. As more guests arrived, I overheard my mother talking to her friends in the kitchen. "We're so blessed to be able to help Amanda and the children start fresh," she was saying. "Family has to come together in times like these." There was no mention of the sacrifice that had been forced upon me, no acknowledgement of what this help had cost. The final straw came during Amanda's toast. Standing on the staircase landing, she raised her glass to address her guests. "I want to thank everyone for coming to celebrate this new chapter in our lives. And especially I want to thank my amazing parents who made this possible. Mom, Dad, your generosity and support mean everything to me and the kids." Something inside me snapped. 10 years of being the less favored daughter, of working harder for less recognition, of sacrificing only to have my dreams dismissed as unimportant, all came rushing to the surface. I stepped forward into the center of the living room. "Yes, let's talk about that generosity," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "Let's talk about how my parents took the $60,000 I'd been saving for 10 years for my wedding and gave it to Amanda without my knowledge or consent." A hush fell over the room. Amanda's smile froze on her face. "Half of that money was from my own savings," I continued. "Money I earned teaching second graders tutoring after school and working summer jobs. Money I put aside while living in a tiny apartment with secondhand furniture because I believed in the promise my parents made that it would be there when I needed it for my wedding." My mother stepped forward. "Megan, this isn't the time or place." "When is the time, Mom? When you took my money without asking, when was the time for my feelings? When Dad called me selfish for being upset? When was the time for my perspective?" Amanda's face had turned from shock to fury. "You're ruining my special day. This is supposed to be a celebration." "A celebration built on stealing from me," I replied. Every person in this room should know that this house was bought with money that was promised to me, that I worked for, that was taken without my permission. My father grabbed my arm. That's enough, Megan. You're making a scene because you're jealous of your sister. Jordan stepped between us. Don't touch her. She has every right to be upset. I think it's time for you both to leave, my father said coldly. Gladly, I replied. But know this. I'm done being the one who always has to sacrifice. I'm done with this family's favoritism. I'm cutting ties with all of you. As Jordan and I walked to the car, my phone buzzed with a text from my father. You're no longer our daughter. Those 5 words, though meant to hurt me, somehow set me free. The morning after Amanda's housewarming party, I woke up with a clarity I hadn't felt in weeks. Jordan and I talked over breakfast about our options. I think we should talk to a lawyer, he suggested. What your parents did might actually be illegal. That afternoon, we met with Rachel, a friend from college who had become a family attorney. After hearing our story and reviewing the documentation I had of my contributions to the account, she looked up from her notes with a serious expression. Megan, this is actually a clear case of financial fraud. Even though the account was in your parents' names, the fact that it was explicitly designated as your wedding fund and you have proof of your contributions gives you legal standing. I was shocked. You mean I could actually sue my own parents? Rachel nodded. You could. And based on what you've shown me, you'd have a strong case. She showed us similar cases where parents had misappropriated funds designated for their adult children. In most instances, the courts had ruled in favor of the children when there was clear evidence of the account's intended purpose. After careful consideration, I decided to send a formal legal letter demanding repayment of the $60,000. Jordan supported my decision completely. This isn't about the money anymore, he said. It's about holding them accountable. When my parents received the letter, their reaction was immediate and hostile. My mother called, crying hysterically. How could you do this to your own family? We raised you, we loved you, and this is how you repay us. My father's response was threats. If you go through with this, you're no longer welcome in this family. Is that what you want? Amanda was panicked. If you sue, I could lose the house. The kids are just getting settled. How can you be so cruel? Surprisingly, an unexpected ally emerged. David, Amanda's ex-husband, contacted me after hearing about the situation. Your sister has been spending money like crazy since the divorce, he told me. I've been worried about her financial decisions affecting child support. I have documentation that might help your case. With mounting evidence and legal pressure, I offered my parents a choice: either repay the money in full immediately or agree to a structured repayment plan. They initially refused both options, claiming they didn't have the resources to repay anything. A meeting with a mediator went poorly, with my father storming out after being asked to provide financial records. Left with no alternative, I formally filed a lawsuit against my own parents. The story quickly spread through our extended family and local community. Several of my parents' friends expressed shock at what they had done, especially after learning the full details. The embarrassment of having their actions exposed seemed to affect my parents more than the legal threat itself. Throughout this difficult time, Jordan remained my rock. We don't need a big wedding, he told me one night as we sat on our apartment balcony. Let's have something small and meaningful with the people who actually support us. His words helped me realize that while the money mattered, the principle behind it mattered more. My parents had broken a promise and betrayed my trust. The lawsuit wasn't just about recovering funds. It was about standing up for myself after a lifetime of being the less favored child. As the court date approached, my parents finally reached out with a settlement offer. They proposed repaying the entire $60,000 in monthly installments over 5 years with legally binding documentation and consequences for default. I learned that Amanda had been forced to take out a second mortgage to begin the repayment plan. My parents would contribute what they could, but Amanda, as the direct beneficiary of the money, would bear most of the responsibility. My mother attempted an apology during a tense phone call. We're sorry if our actions hurt you. she said, her wording carefully avoiding any real admission of wrongdoing. We never meant for things to get so out of hand. After consulting with Rachel, I decided to accept the settlement, but maintained my distance from my family. The relationship was too damaged for a quick reconciliation, if one was possible at all. The first repayment check arrived exactly on schedule with no accompanying note. Just a plain white envelope with a check inside. It felt surreal to deposit it into the new wedding account Jordan and I had opened together. With the lawsuit settled, we began reimagining our wedding plans. Instead of the large country club reception we'd originally envisioned, we chose a charming bed and breakfast on Cape Cod where Jordan had proposed. Our guest list shrank from 150 to 40, including only those who had stood by us during the ordeal. The first major holiday season without my biological family was harder than I expected. Thanksgiving with Jordan's family was warm and welcoming, but I still felt the absence of my own relatives. His parents went out of their way to include family traditions that I mentioned missing. During this period, several extended family members reached out privately to express their support. My cousin Lisa admitted she'd always noticed the favoritism toward Amanda, but had never felt brave enough to speak up. My Aunt Catherine invited us to her home for dinner, apologizing for not being more supportive initially. Jordan's family embraced me completely. His mother helped with wedding planning, and his sister invited me for regular coffee dates to talk about anything except family drama. I began seeing a therapist who specialized in family trauma. Dr. Barnes helped me understand that my parents' behavior reflected their own issues, not my worth. You can't control their actions, she told me, but you can control how you respond and the boundaries you set. Jordan never wavered in his support. When I worried that I was bringing too much baggage into our marriage, he reminded me, I'm not just marrying you on sunny days. I'm here for the storms too. We're a team. 1 year after the family implosion, Jordan and I stood together on the beach at Cape Cod, exchanging vows surrounded by our chosen family. The intimate ceremony was everything we could have wanted, with personal touches that reflected our journey together. My second-grade students had created a beautiful banner that hung at the reception. Jordan's grandmother had sewn special handkerchiefs for us with our initials. My best friend Samantha served as my maid of honor and gave a toast that had everyone in tears and laughter. By then we had recovered about half of the money through the monthly payments, which continued to arrive punctually. The financial wound was healing, even if the emotional one still needed time. I had established clear boundaries with my parents. We had limited contact mainly through email and always focused on practical matters, rather than attempting to rebuild the relationship too quickly. I needed them to demonstrate consistent respect for my boundaries before considering a closer connection. My mother had begun making cautious attempts at reconciliation. She sent a card on my birthday and occasionally reached out with benign text messages asking how I was doing. These small gestures showed some effort, though they came without the deep acknowledgement of wrongdoing that I still needed. Amanda, on the other hand, maintained her resentment. She blamed me for her financial strain, never accepting responsibility for her role in taking money that wasn't hers. When we unavoidably crossed paths at a cousin's graduation, she pointedly ignored me. 6 months after our wedding, Jordan and I welcomed our first child, a daughter we named Emma. The joy of becoming parents brought a new perspective to the family conflict. As I held my newborn, I understood in a visceral way that I would never betray her trust as my parents had betrayed mine. When news of Emma's birth reached my parents, they sent a large basket of baby gifts with a note expressing their hope to meet their granddaughter. It was the first genuine olive branch they had extended. After much discussion with Jordan and my therapist, I agreed to a carefully controlled visit. My parents came to our apartment for a brief 1-hour meeting. The tension was palpable, but seeing them hold Emma stirred complicated emotions I hadn't anticipated. Throughout this journey, I found unexpected healing in connecting with others who had experienced similar family betrayals. I started a small online support group that eventually grew into a foundation providing emergency funds for couples whose wedding savings had been compromised by family members. The experience taught me profound lessons about trust, family, and self-worth. I learned that blood ties don't guarantee unconditional support, that standing up for yourself isn't selfish, and that creating boundaries is sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself. Working with my therapist, I came to understand the difference between forgiveness and reconciliation. I could release the anger without allowing the same patterns to continue. I could acknowledge my parents' humanity without excusing their actions. Most importantly, I discovered my own strength. The woman who walked out of that housewarming party was not the same one who had spent years seeking approval from parents who consistently favored her sister. I had found my voice and learned to use it. Jordan, Emma, and I created our own family traditions based on mutual respect and honest communication. We surrounded ourselves with friends who demonstrated what real support looked like. And slowly, I made peace with the understanding that while I couldn't change my family of origin, I could break the cycle of favoritism and conditional love. Have you ever had to stand up to family members who treated you unfairly? I found that setting boundaries was the hardest but most important step in my healing journey. Share your experience in the comments below, and if this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more stories of overcoming family challenges. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that you deserve to be treated with respect and fairness, especially by those who claim to love you.